box and somebody who is no stranger to classic cars in any way, shape or form. He's been up to his neck in them most of his life. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to welcome to the lovely show, the lovely Anstead from For the Love of Classics.
Massive clap, guys, thanks.
That's all right, yeah.
Come on, better.
Sunday morning, it's Sunday morning.
It's Mother's Day as well.
Yeah.
Any mums here?
Come on.
There's a load of mums here.
Now, how many of you are here because you want to be here, or how many of you are here as a gift from your other half?
You lucky, lucky ladies.
They are, aren't they? Anyway, welcome, Anne. It's lovely for you to see you here. We've had a great weekend so far, but I mean, is this the sort of show you'd come to anyway, even if you weren't a big celeb nowadays?
Oh, behave yourself.
Darling.
Now, this is exactly the type of show I come to. You go to these shows and they're quite glitzy, quite glamorous, but actually this show is a real enthusiast show.
Yeah.
You know, the guys here on their stands with their part-built restorations, and if you're in the middle of a restoration, there's nothing better than getting hold of someone who's also going through the same challenges, or has been through it. And it feels like a kind of start of the new season. Summer's coming, there's optimism, people want to be driving their cars. I love to go around the trade stands, I'm always after bits myself, so this show's really good. It feels like a really enthusiast show.
Because you've been an exhibitor here before, haven't you?
I
Because
have,
you've got your own business.
Yes, I do.
So what is the nature of your business? It's involved with cars in some way, isn't it?
Yeah, so aside from a bit of telly stuff, I used to be a copper. When I left the police, I started a company building bespoke cars, and it's called Evanta. I did 3.5 years on my own, and now I have staff and a big premises, and we bespoke build cars. So every car's made to order, every car's unique. I have got one on the stand right over there, next to my lovely Mark 1 Escort van.
Oh, right, okay. Whereabouts is that?
So just go right over the back there, in front of the Wheeler Dealers store. A car that I built a few years ago. It's kind of my design. Yeah. It's my interpretation of
what's it called?
It's called a barchetta.
A barchetta. Okay, I like that.
Which is Italian for little boat.
Okay.
So it's kind of my interpretation of what a 50s sort of Anglo-Italian speedster should look like.
And what's the spec? What's under the bonnet?
Oh, it's bonkers. So it's about 1,000 kilograms. So it's really light. It has a 6.2 LS3. So that's the new GM V8 that's in the new Corvette.
I'm thinking power to weight ratio. That's right.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. No, it's really good fun.
Yeah.
And I've done loads of those types of cars. I do a GT type version. I do quite a few replicas, and then I do the odd kind of special where I get handed a box of bits and I make what I want.
Great. That sounds like fun. I mean, that is part of the reason why you got involved in the telly stuff, isn't it? They came hunting for you, didn't they?
Yeah, I think what you find in the car world is that everybody kind of specialises, so you become good at Aston or good at Jaguar, and I never did that. I always loved classics and across, a broad spectrum, and I do a lot of Astons now, but I kind of turn my hand to any car that was available, really.
Yeah, right.
And I think, when Channel 4 came looking for somebody, they wanted someone that wasn't bound between to a particular mark.
Yeah.
They wanted someone with a broad spectrum across a vast number of manufacturers, and that's what I gave.
So how did it happen in the first instance as well? Because you came out of nowhere, really, and it was almost like you suddenly turned up, and I was thinking, well, why hasn't this bloke been on telly before?
Oh, God bless you.
That's right, mate. I mean, so did Channel 4, because they upped your presence on the programme, haven't they, really?
Yeah, I've been doing, it's what started out at the beginning. The show was supposed to be led by a big actor, Phil.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, Phil wasn't cast. So I started series 1.
No, I nearly was.
You were nearly cast. Thank God Phil was cast.
I know, it would have been awful, wouldn't it? It would have been a nightmare.
I started series 1, so the reason why Phil's not present in the barn finds is because he just wasn't there. He wasn't booked. And my role was supposed to be quite small. It was supposed to be a mechanic's role, and then I think Channel 4 realised that I had a bit more to give, and I had a great relationship with Phil.
Yeah.
And the kind of show evolved, and then in series 2 it was an opportunity to just do a bit more.
Well, that really comes across on the show. I mean, doesn't it? You got the super enthusiast and the expert enthusiast, which I love. I mean, there's a real chemistry between you, but there wasn't always chemistry between you, or there was always chemistry between you, but it's of a different type.
Yeah, Phil and I did not get on.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you know what, the first week we were physically pulled apart by the producer.
Hey, and you see, I would have paid to see that.
Yeah. Do you know what? We just rubbed each other up the wrong way, and I think it was one of those days where the stars were aligned for both of us to be quite cranky. And we had quite an aggressive argument. Pulled apart, and then the production team said, "Look, it's got to sort it out." So we went down to this hotel in London, and we had the commissioner from Channel 4.
Wow.
I know, it sounds so childish, doesn't it? Like an intervention. You've got to get on.
You went to the headmaster's office, didn't you?
And so we had the commissioner from Channel 4, the head of the production company, the producer, Phil, me. We had this chat, and then we realised actually we got a lot in common. And then they all left, leaving Phil and I in this this bar with an open tab.
Right.
And I got home at 7 in the morning.
Brilliant.
And we've genuinely been best friends ever since. We've got loads in common. And I spent Boxing Day at his house. We are close friends.
How often though? Our friendships are strange things, and really important and interesting ones often start like that, don't they? And the chemistry.
With a punch up.
With a punch up, and then big mates the next day. But you can tell it comes through the telescreen at you. It really does. What's the most enjoyable thing that you've experienced being part of the show? What's the big standout memory so far?
In telly, Joe, I love the building of the cars. Getting hands-on is what I love to do. And that moment where you get judged as a car builder can only ever happen where someone's willing to put their hand in their pocket and pay money for it.
Yeah, right.
And what For the Love of Cars does, and I think does really well, especially in Series 1, because nobody knew what the show was, it was a new show, is we never advertise.
No.
You unless you're in the auction room on that day and you see a camera and Gene Hunt, you don't realise that those cars are done for the show. So, and that more so in Series 1, because we just turned up to an auction with these 6 cars.
Yep.
Didn't advertise it.
No one knew who you were then.
No one had a clue. No reserve as well. Whatever they make on the hammer, that's the price someone's willing to pay for it. And it's all well and good. And in media, there's a lot of people out there that are yes people, so they're all happy to say, "Oh, that's really shiny. That's really nice."
Yeah.
And I don't listen to those people.
No.
The people I listen to is the enthusiast that buys the car. And
so you got that wrong.
Yeah. There's a few of those here. I think that guy.
Yeah.
You're that guy, the single guy. I'm joking. So it's really nice to get kind of validated by people willing to pay their hard-earned cash for the car.
That's the exciting thing, isn't it?
Yeah, selling the car and then talking to the new owner and then understanding why they bought the car. And even now, 2-3 years later, I still am in contact with the owners that bought the car. Yeah. And they still send me updates and they're still driving the cars.
That's fantastic.
And
that's great.
You can't put a price on that, right?
That's lovely, isn't it? Yeah. You're filming Series 3 right now, aren't you?
I started filming For the Love of Cars on Friday.
So what can't you tell us about?
Can we have a bigger yay than that?
Because we love For the Love of Cars, don't we? I mean, it's a great show. It really is.
Yeah, so we've had a problem with Phil's availability.
Okay.
So he's basically, it turns out,
he's fighting people, is he? Is he fighting people in bars?
He's not that scary, but it turns out Phil's like a proper actor and has a real job. He's been doing a show in America with Fox Studios called Outcast, which, by the way, looks fantastic. It does. I mean, he was busy doing a show called Prey, which has been out.
Yeah.
So now Phil's back for a few months. And the other thing is that Channel 4 have somehow managed to seize Formula 1. So Formula 1 this year, guys, watch it. It's going to be March the 20th, so 2 weeks. Formula 1 is going to be on Channel 4. I'm going to be on Sunday Brunch next Sunday talking about Formula 1.
They're getting rid of the adverts, aren't they? During the race, no adverts, which is great news.
No adverts, pure content, and there's going to be some sub-content as well. So it turns out that we've changed For the Love of Cars ever so slightly.
Okay.
Because Channel 4 has received the Formula 1 gig, and I hope you guys like it. We evolved Series 1 to what Series 2 was.
Yep.
And we've evolved it again. So we listen to people, we listen to the fans, we listen to feedback and focus groups, etc. And the changes that you're going to see this time round, I think, are amazing.
Good.
And the car I found on Friday, it was one of those genuine moments where you open up the garage and you think, how has that been hidden for that long? Because it's a special car.
Extraordinary barn find. So, and you tell us anything about it?
I can tell you no more.
Come on, we want to know about it, don't we?
Who's booing? Who's heckling? You're going to have to. Do you know what? It'd be worth it when you see it. Remember this conversation, because when you see this car, it's green. You'll know the car.
It's the same reason why I tell my little girls not to look for their Christmas presents, because it ruins a surprise, doesn't it?
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is.
It's going to be a fantastic car. It's got a great story and great people involved, and it has a bit of a famous history.
Fantastic. And there's something else different about this series as well, which you told me about backstage, which is quite scary, I think.
Go on.
It's to do with the money.
Ah, yes.
Oh, are you allowed to talk about this?
Well, we get it, right?
Okay, fair enough. I've done it now, haven't I?
Is anyone from Channel 4 here?
We're fine.
Let's talk about it then.
Shh, don't tell anyone.
So Series 1, the Channel 4 and the production company stumped up the cash. So we found 6 contributors that were selling projects. We bought the projects. Channel 4 paid Evanta, my restoration company, to repair them.
Yep.
And then whatever the cars made, no reserve, Channel 4 got the money back. And it turned out, across the 6 cars, Channel 4 made a bit of a profit. Series 2, we changed it slightly, so we found the Aston Martin we did own, so Channel 4 bought the Aston, we restored it, and we made about 50 grand profit.
Yeah.
But the other 6 belonged to the contributors, so we had 6 people willing to give us their car. Channel 4 paid for the restoration, and it's not as, everyone thinks we have pots of cash, we don't.
Yeah.
And loads of people, we don't. But Channel 4 paid for the restoration, and whatever the hammer made at auction, the contributor got that back. So they had a fantastic part of the deal. But this time round, that hotshot actor Philip Glenister and myself are personally buying the car with my money.
Ooh.
Which is why I'm going to come and ask you for a £5 in a minute.
Yeah. Is that wise?
What, ask him for a £5?
Yeah, no, not him.
No, it's not wise, because he needs to spend it on a new haircut.
He does, probably. Fair enough. But I mean, are you intending to make money out of this, or is this going to be a cost covering?
No, I never ever. See, I have an attitude that you should work like you're not doing it for the money. You should work, and the car comes first.
Yeah.
And the barn find on Friday, it was such a lovely story that I don't even know if it's going to be in the show, but I've agreed to give whatever percentage of the profits back to the owner of the car.
Great. Yeah.
They probably won't even cover it in the show, but for me, this isn't a venture in making profit. It's really not.
No.
And I put the car first. Whatever's right by the car. If we have to spend more for the car to be right, which we do, editorially that makes sense, and emotionally that makes sense too.
I never make any money on the cars that we have on the magazine, and but I always try and make sure I cover my costs, which is really important because it has to be self-sustaining, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
But when you are an owner, you start to, different from somebody else's car, when you actually own the vehicle that you're working on, you begin to build a relationship. I mean, aren't you frightened that you're going to get a bit attached to some of these?
Well, yeah, I mean, in Series 1, I had a contract with Channel 4, so it basically said I couldn't bid on the cars.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks before the auction, I fell in love with the Series 1 Land Rover, and since that Series 1, I've been looking for a Series 1. Has anyone got Series 1 Land Rover for sale?
Silverstone?
Yeah, I know.
Over there?
Yeah, I've seen they've got a lovely 48 car in there as well, an 80-inch. So about a week before the auction, I said to my lawyer, can we get it written out so I can buy the car? And there was this kind of whole dialogue, and it was literally on the morning of the auction, they came back and said, no, you can't.
Right.
And it went for a record anyway.
And you've been up close and personal with that for a long time,
Yeah, I love that car, yeah.
God, what a shame. That's a nightmare. Well, that's going to change this time. I mean, my question is, I suppose, aren't you frightened that when it comes to the actual sale time, you're going to go, I'm going to buy it from myself?
Yeah.
You've got to be careful. You've got to be careful.
No, I have to be careful. We have to see, we set promises, we have to see them through, so I won't be buying back my own car.
Now, you've been doing a load of work for the Beep, haven't you?
I have been on the BBC, yes.
How's that happened? And it's not all been car stuff either, is it?
No, well I did anyone watch Building Cars Live in the Mini Factory?
Yeah.
4 of you, great.
And my mum liked it as well.
Yeah, do you know, she called me as well.
Yeah.
So I did a show on BBC, which was a live show at the Mini Factory talking about car production. It was BMW, the new Mini, knock out a Mini every 67 seconds.
Amazing.
And what this country's doing in terms of car production is unbelievable. In fact, last week, Aston Martin are opening up their new factory in Wales.
Yes.
Which should be celebrated.
Welsh-built cars.
Exactly.
First since Gilbert.
It's amazing, and so it went really well, and it was my first chance of doing a proper live show. 3 hours live is tough. James May, huge professional. Kate Humble, 200 odd live shows, and I kind of learned a lot with Kate, and I learned a lot with James. And then
you held your own. We thought he held his own, didn't we?
All 4 of them agree with you.
Yeah, you 4. Don't you think he held his own? I do.
Yeah. And Kate Humble's the consummate professional, and then shortly after doing Building Cars, BBC said, actually, you're right, and you and Kate have a good relationship. She's doing a show in China. So on January the 5th, they sent me to China for 6 weeks. And I did a show on Chinese New Year, which wasn't a car show, and that went out about 3 weeks ago.
Well, don't let them nick you away from cars, and we wouldn't want that, would we? That would be very
I
good.
will be doing some car stuff for the Beeb too.
Good. Oh, really?
Yes.
It's nothing to do with a certain ginger-haired man, is it?
Top Gear, no.
Oh, that's a shame.
I did audition for Top Gear.
Yeah?
I did meet with the production team. I was in the process for probably 12 weeks. I went down to the test track. I did some test driving. I filmed in the studios, and I wasn't chosen.
Because to my mind, you're a shoo-in. You should be a shoo-in at least.
Yeah, hey, it didn't happen, and I'm not disappointed by it.
No.
No.
You got to go to China for 6 weeks with Kate Humble, which isn't a bad gig. Let's face it.
Exactly, yeah. So, and plus, it's meant I'm still available. I'm going to be doing some other car stuff with Channel 4 as well.
Great. Well, that's really good news. Before we go, I'd like to throw a few questions open to the audience. Is there anybody who'd like to ask Ant a little question? Just stick your hand in the air, and I'll come amongst you with my microphone. There's one gentleman over here. Okay. Hello, sir. Tell us your name and then ask Ant your question.
If you didn't watch Building Cars Live, don't let him answer a question.
No, I did.
Oh, good, yeah. Crack on then.
I'm Trev. Hiya.
Hi, Trevor.
How many guys or girls? What's the number of people in your team that work on the cars for the love of cars? And do you do multiple projects at the same time, even though we don't see that?
This is a question I get asked all the time. So in Series 2, we did 7 cars. We did all 7 simultaneously in a 12-week period, and I can't explain to you. They don't get it across on the show. So on New Year's Eve, I left the workshop at 11:45. Went to a quick party, and I was back in at 5 o'clock on New Year's Day. We actually came here and sold the cars, so they all get sold within an hour. So we work on them simultaneously for 12 weeks, they get sold within an hour. The door linkage on the Aston Martin was broken, and a linkage for the button to the lock is a series of levers. And because of Christmas and New Year, I couldn't get access to these parts. So I stripped down a Weber carburetor, stole the linkages off Weber's, made a new set of linkages, and on the morning of the sale, came in here at 7 o'clock in the morning, which took a lot of convincing because they're like the SAS in here. And I stripped the door down, put the correct linkages in, which I'd had delivered to the NEC, fixed the car on the morning it was sold. Everybody thinks we have stacks of cash, we don't, and everybody thinks we have loads of people. So at Avanta I have 8 staff that worked on the cars, and then I use a number of subcontractors. It's such a intense period of work, and you're filming in the middle. Everybody thinks telly's made up. It really is genuine. The jeopardy's real, the labour's real. I'm not an actor, I can weld. It's a good question. It's one I get asked a lot.
I spoke to the guys at Rob Sport where you did the stag.
Yeah,
and
they're great guys.
It's genuine stuff these guys do, it really is. Any more questions for Ant? Somebody can't put your hand in the air. Little question from anybody. There's a gentleman over here. We'll do one more question after this chap, and then we're going to have to wrap it up. Okay, just tell us your name and then ask your question.
Hi, my name's Rob.
Hey Rob.
Your Barchetta is lovely. Can you give us an insight into your design process from, I want to put this engine, this chassis on this body?
So the Barchetta started out, so Aston Martin in 1950s built a car called a DB4 Zagato. I do well known that I do a road-going modern-day replica of a DB4 Zagato. They built 19 cars. They weren't actually that popular. They were about the price of a 4-bedroom house at the time. That's why they only sold 19. And they've gone on, in my opinion, to be the best-looking GT of all time. And a Zagato sold in New York about a month ago for £11 million. And they vary from about 5 million for a rubbish one, up to 20 million for one of the VEV cars, which are the 2 works race cars. So I'd already established a DB4 Zagato shell, and I manufacture my own bodies in aluminium and composites anyway. So I made a shell, lobbed the roof off it, chopped the back off it, and then, do you know foam insulation that you can put in your house, Kingspan? I chopped loads of Kingspan together, got a wood saw, shaped it roughly right, then put a layer of fiberglass over to make it secure, and then layer of filler, and then I shaped it, kind of stood back and thought that's about right, and that process went on for about 6 months. In the late 90s, a French guy commissioned Aston Martin to make a DB4 Roadster, and it cost them £1 million, and they made this bright red one, which still lives in France. So I drew inspiration from the original DB4 because I had the shape. and then modified it, taking inspiration from that 1990s Roadster, and then making it relevant today. So of course, if I was to IVA test the original DB4, it would fail. So we have to make the lights the right height, the indicators the right length, the wheels have to sit right within the body, and then protrusions and sharp edges have to be dealt with. And then I knew I wanted something really, really modern, so I went for the LS3 because it's just a great bulletproof package. It's easily available, easily tunable, bags of power, sounds brilliant, all aluminium. And if you have a look, and if you do have a chance, go and have a look over there. The engine is underneath the dash. So I then measured the car, weighed it. So with 2 people in, it is exactly 50-50 between the axles in terms of weight distribution. And yeah, it kind of evolves, and I've done quite a few now. And actually at the moment, so in about 3 months' time, I've made a fully electric classic car, which is really exciting. It's been sort of muttered about, but I've actually been doing it for about 18 months in partnership with the guys behind Lotus. And it's really exciting. It looks like a classic car, but it's totally silent, totally electric, and I can't wait for you guys to see it.
That sounds really interesting. I told you it's a real deal. One more question from our audience. Anybody else got one more thing they want to ask, Anne? Okay, I'm going to ask.
Oh, well, we've got this guy here.
Have we got where?
Yeah, you see, he's...
Oh, there's the man there. Sorry, I completely missed you. Should be wearing my more strongly focused glasses. What's your name, sir?
It's Paul. Hi, Anne.
Hi, Paul.
What motivated you to get into cars in the first place?
I built my first car when I was 16. So my dad knows nothing about cars, and my dad worked at a boarding school. So as part of his job, he was given a house. And at the back of the house, there was 3 garages. And one day I said, "Oh, Dad, I really fancy doing cars." I built a go-kart when I was 14 with a lawnmower engine, and built a soapbox when I was 10. And then I managed to talk my dad into letting me have the garage. And who knows the kit car company Tiger? Right, well, I bought a Tiger kit car. Built that when I was 16, loved it, sold it within 10 miles. Then my first ever car was an MG Midget, fixed it, sold it, and then I started buying more cars. And then I filled each garage. I'd gone to my neighbour and said, "Can I have your garage?" And then my other neighbour, "Can I have your garage?" And then I joined the police when I was 19. So I was a copper for 6 years, and I was armed police, which was a life-changing move for me. I was really badly injured. But I was still building cars when I was in the police. The shift work's fantastic if you want to be a car builder, so you come home and you can find parts. And then one day I sort of said to my wife, I'd just had my daughter, she was sort of 6 months old, and I thought, "Do you know what, I don't want to do this. I don't want to shoot people anymore. I just want to build cars." And you have that kind of, you wake up, you have that emotional moment where you think, life's too short, just do what you want to do. And I rocked up at Stoneleigh with 1 car on a stand. I got a couple of my mates in, made a really rubbish paper banner, and I thought, I'm going to just build cars and have fun. And I kind of 10 years later, I've blinked, and I now employ a load of people, and we do some really cool stuff. But I've been incredibly lucky, and leaving the police was tough. I nearly rejoined for at least a year, but it's the best decision I ever made, and I'm enjoying every day since.
I think doing really cool stuff is kind of your trademark, and you look like you're enjoying it as well.
I have bags of fun.
Yeah, and that's infectious. And I said it to Mike yesterday, I say it to you, hats off to what you do. It's not just about the skill that you display, it's actually the inspiration you give to people, because there are young people getting involved in this movement of ours because they watch your program and they look at you and they go, "He's a cool guy, he's liking what he's doing, I'm going to get stuck into what I'm going to get stuck
into." That's really kind.
So it's a really important thing you do, and thank you for doing that. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed the last half an hour. Anne's a proper gent. He's going to be around today, aren't you?
Yeah, actually, so there's this absolute evil witch called Andrea.
Yeah, terrible person.
In fact, there she is right there. So this lady here tells us what to do, and she gives us a schedule, but actually...
We're all really scared.
We don't look her in the eyes.
I know.
So we are tasked with stuff, so we will be about. Come back here later on today, because Ed, Mike and I have a bit of a funny game.
3:30, right here.
3:30. But I've got a free kind of half an hour now, so I'm heading over to the trade stands because I need to find some bits for a Vanta. And a Series 1 Land Rover, guys. If anyone knows of a Series 1 Land Rover, it doesn't matter what condition it's in, I'm after an 80-inch 1948 Series 1. So yeah, put the word out.
Okay, well, say hello to him. Don't get in the way of him if he's shopping, because you never get in the way of a man when he's shopping. But come and say hello to him, and we'll be back here with Ant at 3:30 with Ed and Mike. Ladies and gentlemen, and Anstead. Put your hands together.